It's important to remember something, and that is this: we don't see with our eyes, we see with our minds. And maybe the best example in the entire Bible of this is in John chapter 8. There's a group of Pharisees who have caught a woman in the act of adultery, are condemning her, and want to stone her to death. And Jesus shows up on the scene. Quick side note: many, maybe even most theologians, if you do some digging and some research, believe that the woman was set up and then Jesus was set up. The whole thing was staged to try and trap Jesus. But guess what? It didn't work. Jesus shows up on the scene and he doesn't see a woman who was caught in the act of adultery, and he definitely doesn't see a woman who needs to be stoned to death. That is true. Those things were true. That was the law. And the woman did get caught in the act of adultery. But guess what? Truth always trumps what's true. And when you understand that, you see things differently because we see from our mind. So Jesus says to the Pharisees, all right, the first one of you that's never sinned, chuck the first stone. And as we know from the oldest, which is the ones that knew the best, to the youngest, that started with the oldest, they dropped their stones all the way to the youngest. They dropped their stones and they walked off. Okay? It's interesting to note, though, that the only person that was qualified to throw a stone in that situation was Jesus. And he didn't, because he saw things differently. He saw the possibilities of people when they were redeemed and restored in him. When our mind is renewed, we see people for their potential. When our mind is renewed, we see people for what Jesus can do in them and through them. When the mind is renewed, we see possibilities and opportunities.